You've been told for years that the secret to great skin lies in the latest active ingredients. Now, you know the ones I mean because you've seen them in the adverts and on the social media platforms. We're talking about the peptide that's so advanced that it sounds like a spacecraft, or a botanical extract that's harvested under a full moon, or a fermented microalgae with a 12-step origin story. But what if I told you that the ingredient outperforming many of these actives isn't actually an active at all? And what if that ingredient is something you might even already have in your kitchen, or if you're a formulator, in your formulation stash? Now, last week I interviewed Dr. Jule Lexa-Wilska of CLR Berlin to talk all about actives, and she was hugely knowledgeable. She was a fabulous guest. And honestly, she might have dropped one of my favorite truth bombs in a long time when she basically said that the most effective ingredient for many people's skin is not always a trend-driven active or a patented complex or, dare I say it, the it girl molecule of the moment. Instead, it's hydration. Real, simple, unglamorous hydration, moisturization, often delivered beautifully by ingredients such as glycerin that hardly ever make it onto TikTok. And that raises a question that the industry fights very hard to avoid, which is, if the basics work so well, why are we pushing the actives so aggressively? And that's what I'm going to cover on today's podcast. Hi, it's Lorraine Dahlmeier, chartered environmentalist, biologist, and CEO of the award-winning online organic cosmetic formulation school, Formula Botanica. I host the Green Beauty Conversations podcast, which has had well over 1 million global downloads, and these are my Green Beauty opinions, where I share my takeaways from last week's episode and challenge you to think differently about the beauty industry. If you love hearing my thoughts on green beauty, make sure you subscribe to this podcast so you never miss an episode. So let's talk about the title of this podcast for a minute. I've titled it, If Your Serum Isn't Working, This Is Probably Why. It's because hydration outperforms most actives. Now, I'm not talking metaphorically or philosophically, I'm talking practically. In moisturization studies, glycerin is often used as the benchmark because its hydrating effect is so reliable and so well documented. And this is the part that the industry never shouts about. A surprising number of trend-driven, so-called high-performance actives don't outperform even that simple glycerin-based control. And when you think about it, it makes perfect sense, right? As Jule explained on the podcast last week, hydrated skin has a stronger barrier, and a stronger barrier means better function, and better function means calmer, more resilient skin. So hydration isn't a side effect of good skincare, it is good skincare. And most of the issues that people try to fix with actives improve dramatically when their barrier is healthy and their skin is properly moisturized. But here's the beauty industry's dilemma, of course. Hydration doesn't sell serums at $95 a bottle. The term hydration feels too ordinary, too familiar, maybe too easy to understand. So instead, the industry fixates on actives and elevates them to magical status. And it convinces you that your skin is complicated and mysterious and unstable and in need of an advanced solution that only their specific formulation can provide. Of course, in doing so, it keeps the basics hidden in plain sight. So what my interview with Jule really highlighted for me is that actives aren't the problem, but the way that we talk about them is. Because actives absolutely have their place. And Jule shared so much amazing information about the way that they develop actives at CLR Berlin. And it's clear that they can help enormously when someone has a specific skin concern. And if you haven't heard my interview with Jule yet, go and have a listen to it. Actives can target issues in elegant and precise ways, and they can elevate a formulation's performance, but they cannot compensate for a poor formulation and override a bad user experience. So my main takeaway is that actives only perform when the whole formulation performs. When the texture feels beautiful, when the sensorial experience invites consistent use, when the product is stable and gentle and enjoyable, and when the person applying it actually wants to reach for it every day. And yet the industry behaves as if the active alone is enough, as if sprinkling a single molecule into a mediocre base magically transforms the product into a clinical miracle. And this hyper-focus on actives has distorted the conversation, because it gives consumers a really narrow view of what makes skincare effective. It pressures formulators into overloading products with more ingredients than they need. I've received many of them over the years. And it also fuels a marketing culture that prioritizes buzzwords over biology. Now, I think we've reached the point where many beauty brands lead with an active the way that a film might lead with a celebrity cameo, for instance. And I'm sure that many active ingredient suppliers see their carefully developed ingredients that are backed by years of studies and testing, then buried under product names that highlight something else entirely, usually a well-known so-called hero ingredient that feels safe and familiar. Now, a brand might add a tiny amount of vitamin C just so they can put with vitamin C on the front of the label, even if the real impact of their formulation comes from simple glycerin or a humble plant extract like daisy. And this isn't just a marketing issue. It shapes the decisions that formulators make, and that then consequently shapes how beauty brands build their identity. It shapes the stories that beauty brands think consumers want to hear. And over time, it reinforces a message that the active is the star and everything else is background noise. But in reality, the base formulation is the star. The actives are the extras. They're helpful, supportive, sometimes transformative, but never compensating for a poor foundation. And this is also a big part of the reason why you focus first on the foundations when you enroll with us at Formula Botanica and you start to learn how to formulate organic skincare or hair care. Because there is honestly no point leading with the actives until you've learned how to make a beautiful base that really works. Or as I often like to put it, you have to learn to walk before you can run. I can't even tell you how many people over the years have wanted to start with all the expensive actives straight away and ended up scraping the whole thing into the trash because they couldn't get the foundation right straight away. So here's my challenge to you this week. Before you reach for the next trending active in your beauty products, pause and ask yourself a different question. What does my skin or my customer's skin actually need? Because for many people, a simple, well-formulated moisturizer with glycerin, oils, and barrier-supporting ingredients may do far more for them in that moment than any advanced active ever could. Because in the end, the most transformative skincare ingredient isn't expensive or rare, and it doesn't come with a trademark symbol, and it probably won't go viral on TikTok, and it certainly won't be the headline of the next big beauty launch. Because more often than not, it's a good humectant, or a well-chosen emollient, or a reliable occlusive. You know, the quiet, unglamorous ingredients that keep water where it needs to be in your skin and support the skin barrier that does most of the work. These ingredients are not flashy or trendy, but they are the backbone of healthy skin. And they're the reason that your serum either succeeds or doesn't. Thanks for listening to my Green Beauty Opinions. Remember to visit the Formula Botanica website at formulabotanica.com to try our free online formulation course. And if you haven't subscribed yet to the Green Beauty Conversations podcast, please do so now in your favorite podcast app and leave me a 5-star review if you enjoy these discussions. I'll be back soon with my next episode.